Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Joe and Kay.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Kay. How are you?
You know,
All this sunshine makes me so happy.
I am opposite. Yeah, I'm one of those.
Don't be Debbie Downer.
No, actually, I was thinking about having a picnic dinner tonight. Like actually going to a park and having a burger barbecue.
Burger row.
Yeah.
Burger
I was gonna say
row.
burger roast.
I'm like, tell me about this burger roast.
I don't know. So, but I didn't. But I thought about it. But typically, like when it gets over 70 degrees,
Do you have air
Oh.
conditioning?
yes, and it's on.
I couldn't live with it without air conditioning.
No,
Mine's been on all day.
Yep.
Ever since this morning.
mine too.
I need it ice cold.
Me too. And
house.
yeah, and they say cold hands, warm heart, and my hands are always really warm.
Mine are always cold and my feet.
Aww.
And I always like put them inside my husband, like my feet in between his thighs, or like.
Is he like, you're freezing?
He hates it.
Yeah.
I'll be like, it's okay, just breathe through it. It'll be done soon.
So how are you?
I'm good. I'm tired. I'm in a break from school right now for the next week. It's like my
Yay.
in between terms or whatever.
Wow.
Totally aced my finals.
Congratulations.
I'm really upset because like when I first started grad school, I was breastfeeding and I had a newborn.
Mm-hmm.
And my first 2 classes that I did, I got a B in them. They were really close to being an A. So now my GPA is like 3.92 because of those 2 Bs, and everything else is an A.
That's what I graduated
And I'm
with.
like a perfectionist.
Yep.
So a recovering one.
Yes, we've talked about
Thank
this.
you.
Yep.
Recovering perfectionist. So it bothers me and I like compete with myself. So it's really like, I'm really enjoying the break because then I'm like constantly like checking my grades or like calculating how many points I can miss to make sure I'm still getting, you know what I mean?
Wow,
It just
no,
becomes
I
like
never
super.
did that. And in grad school, not at like my bachelor's degree, I knew I had to get a 3.0 to get into any master's program anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's what I got.
Mm-hmm.
The bare
You're like,
minimum.
got it.
And then with my master's degree, I worked really hard.
Yeah.
And I'd never really done that in my life, like worked really hard at school.
Yeah.
But I really did, and I was interested in the subject matter, so that really helped.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, I was just really focused. And so, but my last semester, we ended up moving. Something else happened, and I ended up getting a B or 2 Bs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I graduated with like a 3.92.
It's
and
so
I look at it,
frustrating.
I'm like, dang.
Like, it's not good enough. Like the trophy parent on
4.0.
myself. I'm
Yeah,
like, you
right.
could do better. Where are those straight A's at?
Well, I'm glad you get a couple weeks to chill out.
It's just until like May 2nd.
Okay. Any
So
moms
I got
out
one
there?
more week.
Any moms out there who are going to school? My husband has been going to school for the last 9 years. He took a year off.
Yeah.
So he is graduating. Tonight is his last post he has to do.
The whole time I've been in college, I've had kids. I literally have no idea what it's like to be in school without kids.
My undergrad was amazing, but my graduate degree, when I had a child, it was really hard. I either felt like I was neglecting her completely, or like I was going to fail because I wasn't working hard enough because I was actually trying to parent. I didn't find
mine
a happy
is like
balance.
trying to juggle because I'm working full time in grad school, and then I was breastfeeding on top of that, and like with a newborn baby.
No.
And now obviously she's not newborn and I'm not breastfeeding anymore, but it's like having a toddler and taking her to part-time school and my son to school and work obligations and cleaning my house and doing all my chores and maintaining my homework and reading.
And when you're done, it's going to feel like you're on vacation, or you're going to be
and
like,
I
wait.
can't even go to my graduation.
That's sad.
It's really sad. I couldn't go to my undergrad graduation because I was breastfeeding and Cecilia was brand new, and they needed a 6-hour commitment, and she wouldn't. She was so
No.
new, and
You can't do that.
I couldn't be away from her for 6
No.
hours, and it was so hot. Like it was outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
The graduation, you can't sit outside in the heat with a newborn baby.
No.
With nothing, so that wasn't going to work out. So I missed my undergrad graduation, and now I'm going to be missing my master's degree graduation next summer. Not going to be there. So I'm pretty bummed out, and it's been like eating at me a little bit because I feel like when you go and you do these things, you're like doing things for your kids so that your kids can have a better life than what you did.
Yes.
And you feel like you're like kind of working your ass off for all this, and then you can't like that gratification or whatever it is that like you're done and you get to celebrate, and it's like, yeah, I can have a barbecue and go out to dinner and stuff. That's great, but like
Not the same.
I want to walk across the stage.
Yep.
I want to like have the crowd cheer. You know what I mean?
I couldn't either. Yep, it was in South Dakota, and I couldn't afford to go.
Yeah.
And so that was it.
It's a sucky feeling.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, well, okay, well, that's over. Bring on them student loan payments.
Speaking of...
It's literally what it's going to sound like after I turn my last homework assignment in. Game over. You're a loser.
Oh, no. No, it's not. You're going to be so excited. But I'm sorry you can't go.
It is what it is.
It's hard. Bums me out hearing that.
It bums me out because I want to go. I'm like, I never missed anything for my kids, and now I have to miss it because of my kids. Kind of weird situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm not blaming them, but it's just the reality of like parenting while you're in school.
Yeah.
And it really sucks. So if anybody wants to send me a graduation present to the tune of like 6 figures, that'd be great. You can email us.
Yes. And I too have student loans I'm trying to pay off right now. So anyone who just wants to send us money, we're not going to use it for the show. We're using it for our personal lives.
Yeah. I just want to go get my nails done. Buy more products.
Yeah. We need to buy more products so we can tell you about them.
Right?
So this episode is going to be fairly short, but it's about vaccinations.
Yeah. We're talking about vaccinations.
And I had a friend say, you're not really going to do that.
My husband said that.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Because it's totally controversial.
Yeah.
People don't like talking about it. And I don't even know how it came up with you and I. But somehow I found out that you are not
a non-vaxxer.
Non-vaccination person. Mm-hmm. And I vaccinated my kids.
Yeah.
And I think I need to make that clear. I made the decision to vaccinate my kids based on how I feel about it. Mm-hmm. And actually with my oldest daughter, I didn't realize that I couldn't.
It was a choice.
I didn't realize there was that choice. I don't know. They brought me the piece of paper. They're like, it's vaccination time. I look at this piece of paper saying like, here's all the things that can go wrong. Mm-hmm. And then I just remember feeling like really sad about it. And like, okay, well, this is really scary. Mm-hmm. I think that's more how I was feeling, just really scared. Yeah. And I was there without my husband, and I thought, okay, I guess.
Well, that's what we do.
Yeah. So how did it come about? How did you decide not to?
I don't know. I'm not vaccinated. I've never that's never been a part of my childhood or like the whole vaccination thing. Mm-hmm. So to me, it was like, I don't know. I never really felt. And some of the things I'm like, you don't need a vaccination for that, or you don't need it. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not like a scientist. I don't work for, the FDA or, any weird things. I'm not a hippie. I don't live in a tree house. But if you go, there was like, after my son was born, he was in the NICU, and there's like actually a sign outside of the NICU that's like, if you've had any vaccinations in this amount of time, do not enter, because the vaccinations carry like live, not all of them, but some select ones carry that live virus in it. So while you're building that forceful immunity from the vaccination, or attempting to, you can also transmit that disease, whatever you were being vaccinated for in some of the vaccinations, to other people. And because you're going into a room of like very vulnerable population, they do not want people in there.
So that made you think about it.
It did, but I didn't want him to do anything. Like, even when he was circumcised, I didn't give him Tylenol. Like, I just don't. I've always just felt like your body's going to do its own thing. And I just, like, when you look at statistically of getting measles or getting chicken pox, or like, those things are so curable these days. And when we talk about these things, like the polio, that was from, I think you had told me that, like, getting it from like dirty water or something. Like, we don't have, right, we're not in these third world countries anymore. And I know that people go back and forth to third world countries, but even now, if you look at like a third world country, look at their rate of deaths for those are even low. You know what I mean? So, and people can blame that, oh yeah, because we've had vaccinations for them and we killed it off. But I think some of those things kind of ebb and flow, and we do have some measles things come up, but like, literally your chances of dying from measles is like less than 1%. It's not like,
I haven't looked it up.
Yeah, it's not like, I'd encourage everybody to look that up, and don't listen to me. Like, do what you're gonna do ultimately. But my son, I think I talked about this on another episode.
Yeah, the last one about tetanus.
Yeah. So he cut his ear and was in the ER, and that the nurse like really scared me. And so I can empathize with you on that feeling of like, I don't know what to do, but I'm really scared, because like tetanus, of all of them, tetanus is the one that really scares me. But it's also treatable. Like, in the moment, you can get the vaccination right away, and like, you're good.
Like when you step on a nail.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I think they just kind of pass out tetanus like candy, just, for protection. And same thing with antibiotics, but that's a whole other, like,
that'd be another episode.
It's another episode, which my kids do not get antibiotics either. So I don't know. My kids aren't sick kids either, and I don't keep them in a bubble, and I don't, like, when they do get sick, they respond really well, and they're not like down for days. And it was never like, I don't want my kids to be autistic.
You're not listening to Jenny McCarthy?
No. No.
Okay.
It was nothing about that. It was just like, just really believing in the human body and what your body can do, and the things like, if you're building your natural immunity, and you can either force immunity onto yourself, or you can build it naturally. But I think one of the big misconceptions that I hear from people who have vaccinated is they assume that vaccination means immunity, and that's not what that means. It's an attempt to build immunity, but it doesn't mean that you're immune to it. And you can have a vaccination and still get that, but they'll say it's like a lesser thing. But we get, we don't, but you get a flu shot and hope that you don't get the flu, and the majority of people who get the flu shot end up getting a flu, but they're like, oh, you're getting it because we introduced it to you, but it's a lesser of what it was, but you don't really know. You know what I mean?
They've never, when I bring that up when I'm getting a flu shot, they're like, no, that's not true. Every time. They're like, no, we're not. You're not getting the flu from the flu shot. And that's what they've told me. But what typically does happen is, like with this year, what I heard was that it was a bad batch. Like the flu, it wasn't the right strain of flu that they were giving you this flu shot for. So there's a lot of and I find that happens a lot with the flu shot. Like,
Yeah.
oh, like one year my daughter, I got her the flu shot and she got the flu. And it was like in April.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, she got the flu shot, and they're like, well, she got the flu shot in October. And so it's already like worn off. That's what they told me. And so I was just kind of baffled. So she hasn't gotten a flu shot since because I tried with that,
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, with getting vaccinations for my kids, I do think about things like measles, and it's, maybe it is completely fear based for me,
Mm-hmm.
but I am afraid of those things like my child getting rotavirus and
That's
getting
fair.
measles, and
Yeah.
so I
I
do that. But it was interesting because when my stepdaughter was like 5, the preschool sent home a notice saying that there's chicken pox, and I said, well, she can't get them because she's been vaccinated, and they said no, she
Mm-hmm.
can still get them, and I thought, well, that's interesting. I just never even thought,
Yeah.
because I do think a lot of people think it means that you're now immune.
You can still get it, and people
Mm-hmm.
who even have had measles vaccinations have gotten
Mm-hmm.
measles. Like
Yeah.
it. That's yeah. It doesn't bother me, but I'm not like so anti-vaccination. I'm just pro-choice. Like
Yeah, I
really,
hear
when it
you.
comes down to
Mm-hmm.
it, like you have a choice as a parent, and that's what I want to encourage. I want like the hate to stop. Like we can all disagree, that's fine. But at the end of the day, just because we disagree on something doesn't mean that like we have to be hateful or hurtful or say really inappropriate things. It's just like that's your view and that's mine and that's cool. And what do you
Yeah.
want to eat later? 'Cause I'm hungry, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. I think, yeah, it was interesting because when I at one point worked for the government, and that was part of my job, was encouraging immunizations and
Yeah.
vaccinations. And I remember the first time I went into someone's house and was like, "Oh, here, I brought you all this," and they were like, "Get out!" not, not. I just, and
You're
it was,
like, what?
and
Excuse
I
me?
thought, oh, they're like, "No, we don't do that." And I said, "Well, why not?" And they're like, "Well, first of all, there's like dead fetus, there's like aborted fetus cells in there, and there's mercury in there, and there's all these things." And I thought, oh, whatever. And it was really interesting because that day driving home, on NPR, they had a segment about the child. I think I brought this up before, just to you, but
Mm-hmm.
like sourdough bread. Like, have you ever made sourdough bread?
No.
Like, you have to have a starter,
Is
and
that
that's
like
kind of
that
what they.
Scoogy or that Scoby thing?
I don't know.
Scoogy
I
for
don't know what that is.
kombucha?
Oh, I think, yeah, you have to have a starter for kombucha too.
Have
It's the
you
same
seen it?
thing. No, I haven't. Is it disgusting? It
It's
probably
the
is.
worst looking thing I've ever seen before.
So yeah, so with sourdough bread, they have to have this. So that's like kind of what they used this. I think it was this a mom from Sweden. It was like her 5th child or 6th child, and she found somebody who would give her abortion. I think they were legal there at that time, and they aborted this fetus. They never asked her permission. They never talked to her about it. They just took it and then
Mm-hmm.
grew its cells so that um,
It's really disgusting. I
virus.
can't.
I think it was I think it's from. I think it's the measles vaccination. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's what they do. So they actually is like everyone who's been vaccinated does have
Look
a little
at
bit of this baby
it's
in
like
them.
a
Oh, you're showing me a picture.
big round
That
of the Scoby snot.
that looks disgusting.
And it grows and they like pull it out of the
Okay.
top of the
Yeah. No, my husband loves kombucha.
Well, that's how they make it.
do
Look, a
not.
jar of that. He's drinking that. A jar of that.
I'm sure he'd be like, yeah, it's delicious.
So good. Like, no,
like it looks
it's
like
not.
snot.
And you smell like vinegar right now.
To me, it's a lot like...
This literally looks like a placenta floating in a jar.
It does.
That sounds
It
really
definitely
healthy.
does.
I want some kombucha.
Well, I know people do drink their, they make their placenta smoothies.
Nope, we're not.
So anyway, that was and then I worked on a reservation for a little bit. And when I brought up immunizations, the mom laughed at me and she said, "Do you really think that we're going to be trusting the government?" And I said, "Oh no." I said, "Well, I have to ask you." And she said, "Oh yeah, it's fine, but no, we don't immunize."
No thanks.
And that's another thing. This last time with my daughter, my mom brought up, she's like, "Why are there so many more immunizations now than there were before?" And she said, "Do you even realize like how many immunizations you're giving your child?" And I was actually a little surprised because they had my child, my baby, on the same schedule as a baby that was not preterm. So that caught me off guard. And I worked with a mom who had that and asked for a different schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, "Nope, I'm going to do this." And she had to constantly remind the doctor and told me about like what a fight it was for her to be on a different schedule. And so I brought it up to my doctor, and my doctor was just like, "No, do it." And it's funny because I think I would have probably had her on a different schedule, but because I was so, I think you're tired and vulnerable.
You
as
are
a new mom.
You totally are. And they're like, "This is gonna save your baby."
Yeah.
And it will. It will. I don't know. It will save your baby's life. That's great.
Yeah.
And I apparently don't care enough about my kids to save their life. Okay.
Oh, don't even.
So I think it's good, and I think a political statement to make is I think that where we're at in our current like climate in the US is that we cannot have healthy disagreements.
No.
And it is
that true.
horrific.
Yes.
That we can't just be in a room and have a different opinion and not become hateful.
Yes.
And I think being a mom is so hard, and it's so complex, and it's emotionally draining and exhausting physically, mentally. And there's that desire to have connection with other moms because you want to have like a tribe of women who get what you're going through. But instead, you get all these women that are nitpicking. "Well, you did this and I did this," or these backhanded comments. "Well, my little Johnny is going to be healthier than yours," or whatever.
Yes. No, I've experienced that personally.
And I just,
a lot.
It's not. And I'm guilty of like seeing other parents and like what they're feeding their kids and cringing, like, "I wouldn't do that." Or seeing parents who put soda in their kids' bottles, like that drives me crazy. But the beauty of that is that I could also twist that and be like, "You are a really awesome mom for not being guarded and allowing your kids to have these things that, some kids won't get, or they don't." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing. Just do you, boo. That's all I got. That's all I know. Just do you,
And I think
boo.
so many women are so afraid to even bring up the whole immunization topic because they don't want to be
becomes
judged.
Isolating.
Yes.
People judge. You become isolated.
And I think being a mom now, and in my experience, I don't care if you're, go to a mom club during the week or, whatever you do with other moms. It is very isolating because you feel very judged. No matter what you do.
No matter what you do, somebody's always got something to say.
And I think it was funny because we were recording something, or I said something, and it's been like in my head for the last couple days, and I just wanted to bring it up to you. I said something along the lines of like, oh, that's some fear-based parenting or something. And you were like, oh, yes, it is, totally.
Totally.
And I didn't mean for it to sound judgmental. And I think it totally did.
No.
And I was
I absolutely use fear tactics.
Well, and
Absolutely.
I think I do. I mean, I think all parents do.
Yeah.
I think good parents do. I'm just kidding.
Like, for the record, I think the best parents do that. No,
I think you
totally
have to
yeah.
in some ways. And so, but you were like, oh, and then you brought it up later to me, and I'm like, yeah, of course I use scare tactics with my kids.
Yeah, no, I totally use scare tactics. Like, it doesn't even.
I do. And it's gotten like out of hand, I think, with my 9-year-old. I'm like, wow. She said something like, oh, well, we're going to go hang out at so-and-so's house. And I said, well, have any of the other parents met the parents?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no. And I'm like,
you're like,
yeah,
wrong answer.
And I said, you're not going. And we live in apartments, and I tell her people can come over. She can't go. So she was trying to weasel her way into going because everyone else is. And I'm like, I don't know the parents. I don't even know where they live. Yeah. No, you're staying here. But she brought up like doing Musically, which she's not allowed to do anymore because it's a total sexual predator. It's just like it's
weird.
It's like an online if you've ever it's online lip singing, and it's these short little segments of popular songs, and a lot of them are like they're pop songs, so they have this sexual content, and then you get these kids who are reenacting either the music video, which is completely inappropriate for a child to be reenacting, and then or they're just being innocent kids, but that's what these sexual predators get off on. Yeah. And I made her close her Musically account just because I was not feeling good about it. And she was really upset. And my husband looked it up, and sure enough, it's like the number one place that, because it's like free sexual predator viewing. Yeah.
Speaking of disgusting.
What?
Girl. You guys have to listen to this. Let's talk about kids
story time
and dogs. Okay. And how disgusting this combination can be. So I was in the kitchen the other day cooking. Yeah. And I was like on my period. Disgusting, right? It's kind of like the end of taping off my period. And the kids are upstairs playing. And I'm downstairs in the kitchen cooking. And all of a sudden, I hear my little dog yappy, yappy, yappy barking.
It's a little chihuahua.
Yeah, just barking away. And all I can hear is my son saying, ew, what is that? That's all I hear.
I want to know.
What is that? He's like, there's a dead mouse in the house. And my daughter's like, ew, ew. So I'm like, bring it down here. Like, what are you guys talking about? Because I couldn't leave cooking the stove on because it was like, boiling when you're in the middle of like whatever mixing. So my daughter comes down the stairs and my son is still upstairs yelling, what is that? What is that? And I turn around to look at my daughter coming down the stairs thinking she's holding a dead mouse that the dog was chewing on. But it was, in fact, not a dead mouse. It was a tampon that was used that the dog pulled out of the garbage can in my bathroom.
Yum.
I was so disgusted
and
mortified. Like, I didn't know if I should laugh or cry, and then I'm, like, taking a picture because it's, like, send it to my husband because he's not home. And the look
that's just the inside of mommy's uterus.
Yeah, the look on her face is, like, so priceless in this picture. And I sent it to my husband, and, of course, he comes home, and it was, like, gagging. Like, I'm so glad he wasn't home. And then it was quickly like, put it in the garbage and go wash your hands. It's time for dinner. Everybody bless your food. It was... like, I can't. And I saved that picture. And in like 10 years, I want to be like, oh my gosh. One time.
That should be her senior yearbook
That was
picture.
like not a dead mouse that I blurred out. That was actually a tampon. from my uterus that you grew in at one point, and now it's shedding because there's no more of you.
Beautiful.
So disgusting.
Yeah. You should when it's like puberty time and you're talking to her
Like,
about,
remember that one time?
you could bring up the picture.
Do you know the same dog literally ate a full tampon one time, and we had company over, and she puked it up on the floor in front of people, and they're like, "Oh, what did she throw up?" And like I couldn't like
And knowing you when you can't.
No, it was
When
like in
you
a weird
can't
like
say
U
something.
shape, and it was all like intertwined in itself and like slimy and like saliva bubbles on it. I'm like, ooh, I don't know what she ate. So gross.
That's beautiful.
I
I
hate
love your
dogs.
stories.
It's disgusting. It's
So
like,
speaking of stories, what is your mom fail?
what is my mom fail this week?
Do you want me to tell mine?
Yeah, let me think about it for a minute.
Yeah, sometimes I know you'll find it. So my mom fail was I volunteered to take my daughter to chaperone my daughter's field trip.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a long car ride, and you know I'm not the strictest mom on, like, my daughter can't watch rated R movies. She can't, every once in a while she can watch like a PG-13 movie if I've
Mm-hmm.
approved it. Um but like I let her watch like Mysteries in the Museum. I tell my daughter ghost stories. It's kind of a part of my family culture, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of what we do.
Yeah.
And so we're in the car and we're going on a car ride. So of course it's ghost story time.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes to a Christian school. And I knew that these kids could not, and I know their parents wouldn't appreciate it. And I
Don't
was
do
just
it.
like, no, no, no.
We're not
And
doing
it was
that.
just, but it's kind of a mom fail because
It's awesome.
it all comes to the surface. Like things that you don't want
Your
to
kids
come
to talk
out.
about.
Yes,
I know. They're
it's
gonna
going to
come
come out.
Mm-hmm.
And just I told my daughter like something personal that happened to a family member, and it's one of those like I totally overshared with her, and it's
Mm-hmm.
along the same lines.
Yeah.
And she brought it up to her teacher today, and the teacher
You're
came
like,
out,
thank
yeah,
you.
and said, "Oh, she brought this thing up to me, and I just wanted to let you know."
You're like
And I
awkward,
said,
but thank you.
"Great." And I said, "Wow." I said, "It sounds like you feel really comfortable talking to your teacher." And my daughter was like, "I do." And I was like, "Okay." Because I don't want to be like,
See, I'm the opposite.
"Okay."
Oh.
Are you? No, you did not. Yeah.
Well, even if it's something simple, like, and people disagree with me. I don't know. I'm used to people disagreeing with me. But I always tell my kids, like, what goes on in our house is our family business. And people who are not in our family do not need to know our business.
Yeah.
And it's not what we do here or what we talk about at home that stays at home.
I think it's about creating boundaries for your kids.
Yeah, and it's
there's
like
a
you don't
healthy way
want
to do
people
that.
up in your business.
Mhm.
Like that's not, you know, how it is. So yeah, I would not be like, wow. I'd be like, why did you do that? As soon as we got in the car, I'd be like, thanks for the information, teacher. And then got in the car and been like, Satan mom. What did you do? Yeah.
Speaking of Saint Mom, have you thought of one yet?
Yeah, my daughter the other day, we were outside and she like stepped on some kind of egg. And I don't know what kind of egg it is. I'm honestly thinking it was probably a snake egg now that I think about it, but I don't know. It was small, and she's like, "I killed a bird," like, because my husband kind of said that as a joke, and then she like took it on and was like, "Yeah, I killed a bird."
Was she like frothing at the mouth, like Dexter? Like,
Yeah, she's like a gremlin, like
murderer. That's really fun to do in the microphone. Okay,
I know. So I'm like, you didn't kill the bird, first of all, because you would see it like on the ground, and second of all, Like the mama bird, if you're like stepping on her eggs, she's gonna be mad and she's gonna come down and she's gonna peck your eyeballs out. And then she like kind of was like looking up and like
And
looking
your
around.
daughter
I'm
already
like,
has a fear.
yeah, she already hates. She's so afraid of birds. It's not even funny. Like sometimes when we go to the beach, I just want to like throw a piece of bread at her so all the seagulls like swarm around her. But I know that would be really horrible. But it would be kind of awesome at the same time too. So yeah, I told her that the bird would be upset and probably try to pluck her eyeballs out, and that we should just get in the car and go. And that's what we did.
Was she afraid?
No, she kind of was like, I don't want that to happen. But like today we were in pickup line. Oh, this is another mom fail. She saw a wasp outside her window, and I knew it wasn't gonna like come in the car because it was like going by my or the side mirror, and she could see it out. And she can't handle ants, birds, bugs. Like that's why we're a good team, and we don't go camping because we would ruin everybody's time. Um, and so she saw, and she was like already like tensing up, like, oh, there's a bee. Don't let it in the car. And I like totally pretended like I was going to roll her window down. And she's like, stop! Like totally like, I'm like, oh, just kidding. I'm not going to do that.
Oh, no.
What is your pick of the week? What's your product, girl?
You know, it's simple, but it saves clothes money, I should say. Shout.
Oh,
I have a baby. She is 1. It's chemicals. Okay. I spray chemicals all over her clothes.
It's fine. She'll be all right.
It takes the berry out. She learned how to work a pin the other day that her older sister let her get a hold of, and there was pink all over a brand new dress she had. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Thanks to Shout.
Thank you, Shout.
So I buy the big Costco thing of it and use it. It's beautiful.
That's so awesome.
What's your product? I'm sure your product is like something that I'll want right away.
Mine is the Too Faced Cocoa Contour Kit. Oh my gosh. And it literally smells like chocolate. Yeah. Smells like chocolate.
Are you like putting
it's
some
so
in your
good.
mouth?
Right? I know. Well, it was funny because when I first saw it, it had these beautiful colors. They're really like warm tone, natural, so you don't have like that orangey undertone.
Nice.
And it's got like the little shimmer to it. It's really nice. But I didn't know that it smelled like chocolate until I got it home, and I was like playing with it. And at first I'm like, what is that smell? And then I was like smelling my makeup brush, like, and then I was smelling the whole package. Yeah, it's the makeup. It smells like chocolate.
That's amazing.
Delicious. And it looks beautiful. I don't have any makeup on today, but it is beautiful.
Tell. Your skin is radiant. You're like glowing over here.
I don't think so.
Okay, well,
I probably haven't washed my face and it's like oil.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm always staring at my husband's face. He's very oily, and I'm just like, you're like glowing. He was like, well, it's because I'm so oily.
It's like when I was pregnant, I had awful acne. I'd be like, you totally have the baby glow. I'm like, no, I totally have a bunch of fucking acne all over my face, and it's red.
Thank you for bringing attention.
Thank you for
acknowledging my face. Yeah.
We could do like a road trip from like Mount St. Helens right here on my chin all the way over to Mount Adams. You know?
I love your geography.
Thanks. It was like I had horrible because I had PCOS, and when I was pregnant, I had like horrible cystic acne. Yeah.
That sounds like something I like to see, like popped.
Oh, Dr. Pimple Popper?
Yes.
Do you watch that?
Yes.
Laura, if you're listening to this, I love you. And thank you for letting me show you those videos. And I'm sorry that you almost threw up. You're the best friend ever. My friend Laura she has the worst gag reflex. She pukes so easily, and I love telling her really disgusting things.
Using that.
And she will literally not stop. I'm pretty sure she told me one time that her kids would actually do things to make her throw up to get out of trouble because she will throw up that easily.
Wow.
I know. Poor Laura. Boo boo. She watched the meatball pimple popper out of the arm.
Yes,
and it
I've
looked
seen
like
that
hard-boiled egg, a meatball one.
Looks so
I just
good.
want to know what it smelled
I
like.
do. I know. It's so
and
gross.
that tipped her over the edge.
Yep.
She was like, nope, we're done here. And we did it at work, and it was awesome.
I love it.
So thank you for all the work people that let me torture you by showing you Dr. Pimple Popper.
Yeah, no, I think more people need to know about it and witness it.
I know.
It's, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a real time. Thanks for listening to us. Email us. Instagram us.
Oh, yes.
Facebook us.
Our email is 4, the number 4, realtalkjk@gmail.com. And then we have 4 realtalkjk, the number 4, realtalkjk, on Instagram. And it's the same on Facebook. And find us, and we have a pretty funny Instagram going on. And we appreciate all of you listening to us. Thank you so much for the support. We have 3 more episodes to do for this season, and then we'll be taking a break. And we'll be back with some new, fresh segments.
New stuff.
Yeah.
Some interviews.
Exactly.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. All right. Thank you very much.
See ya.